battles. This is my secondary account. Wargaming. Now, my main account, Airborne Hunter 04. Or 04. However you want to pronounce it. So, yesterday at about 7:30 p.m. or so, I broke because I had a mission where I had to win battles in heavy tanks. All my heavy tanks were between tiers 6 and 8. Tiers 6, 7, and 8. The only tiers I had heavy tanks. All of those tiers can encounter Annihilator. And there are literal thousands of Annihilator Spammers. Smasher was already OP. We all know it's overpowered and it needs a nerf. Annihilator is much more of a pain in the ass because there's a lot more players with it because it only costs $5 instead of having to gamble anywhere between $0. Very few people got lucky enough to only have to grind for a few dozen hours or so during that event in the summer of 2020 to get the Smasher. Very few people got lucky to get that key and get a tank out of those 2 keys alone that you could get for free without having to spend any money on the game. Most of us had to spend between at least $5 on keys. Well, $2 to up to $30. And that's just the prices for each individual bundle. There is if I'm recalling correctly, a $2 one for 2 keys, a $5 one for like 10, or like a $5 one for 6 keys, $10 for like 15 keys, and then maybe a $15 and $20 one for a bunch of keys. But Annihilator, literally KV2 with the stock turret, but a crap ton of armor, crap ton more armor, much more damage, a 6-second or so faster reload, and it has more HE penetration maximum, which with calibrated shells with this gun, the maximum penetration for a highly explosive is 84. On Smasher, it's up to like 95 or something like that. Smasher also has just shy of 300 millimeters of heat penetration, compared to KV2's 150 or so. Yeah, KV2 has maximum like 143 or so millimeters of premium penetration. That is absolutely abysmal compared to the RL-44 stock gun, 184 millimeters for APCR. Then the 260, then 234, and then 272. Now, that's just how the RL-44 is. It's a beautiful tier 6 heavy tank. Really good, but its cheeks are very vulnerable to being penetrated. And there's also several tier 6 Tiger variants, literally only premiums. There is the Tiger 131, the Tiger Kuru Morning Mine, and then the Icebreaker. They're literally just Tiger ones adjusted for tier 6. I believe that the Tiger 131 has the worst stats out of all 3 of those, but all of them can penetrate the RL's front easily. Same for RL-44. If you're having trouble penetrating due to angles, just swap to premium ammo, you'll do just fine. Most tier 7s can penetrate your front, if not everyone can penetrate your sides and rear of your hull and turret. Anyways, that was just a rant on RL-44 being a great tank. But back to the issue at hand. Last night, I broke. I was not having a good time. I wanted to do that mission so I could get further in the battle pass and unlock the Icebreaker. A good tank and also get more rewards. I'm on, I believe, I'm working on level 33 or 34 on my main account currently. But, so last night, I broke down. I just couldn't fucking take any more Annihilator Spammers. I didn't want to spend money. I didn't want to spend a few thousand credits or like up to like 100,000 or so getting a tier 2 or tier 3 heavy tank from a tech tree. I was just lazy. I was like, hey, I'm good in these tanks. And I was like, maybe I'll get lucky in a couple matches, I'll do good, win, and not encounter an Annihilator. I had 4 battles left to win, to complete that mission for, like... But anyways, I was not having a good time, I was having bad RNG. Matchmaker was putting me up against Annihilator Spammers almost constantly. And eventually I just decided, you know what, screw this. I'm going to hop into my Gravedigger and go troll an Annihilator if I encounter one. I did, and out of the foul, and it's just my luck that Matchmaker put me up against one of the few Annihilators on my team in the world that is intelligent enough to realize that, oh, I can just send wargaming evidence of someone being a toxic asshole, which I was, and then get banned, temporarily or permanently. So anyways, I banned until 7:30 p.m. January 15th. I'm fairly irritated because I did 1 battle and then I did a battle in almost 2 full days of Mad Games on the main account. Anyways, wargaming, I can almost guarantee I'm not the only person who's had this happen with them, where they just can't take it anymore with the Annihilator and Smasher spam, and they just lose it, and they go trolling for the first time. And no, not just trolling as in playing a full tank stock, or just memeing about in chat, or acting like a bad player or anything like that. As in full-on trolling, where they're spamming chat, spamming curse words in chat, insulting people for no reason, going AFK for no reason, or physically preventing the tank from moving. What I did was I tried to physically prevent our Annihilator from moving, and I just pushed him about, messed him up, and I just harassed him that whole game. We of course lost, because we had a Gravedigger and Annihilator, which were doing absolutely nothing. And then he told me I was recording, and I was like, I don't care. Now, from what I heard, Rant doesn't ban people that spend money on the monster hacking. Apparently, that's not true. So my main account is banned until tomorrow. Anyways, that's not what I'm going to do. The point is that I genuinely love this game. I've loved it for years. I've enjoyed it for years. But the Annihilator is the brick that broke the camel's back. Not a straw, but it's way too overpowered and broken of a tank to be just a straw. No, it was the brick. Smasher needs a nerf. E25 needs a bit of a nerf. Maybe buff its hitbox height. That way it's not so goddamn impossible to deal with if you're a Russian heavy. Like the KV-2. Or if you're, God forbid, playing one of the British tank destroyers between tier 6 and tier 8. Those things have a really, truly god-awful, truly horrible turn speed. Like AT8, AT7, and AT15, and AT15A, very slow tanks. Now, they've got decent armor, but it doesn't work very well the higher the tier you go, because this is exactly what the Germans found. The Soviets realized at the end of World War II, hey, just slapping a crap ton of armor and a big old gun on your tank and a big engine that makes it go slow, but being nearly impenetrable ain't gonna do very well in a few months or a few years when your enemies you're dealing with and you're at war with develop a big enough gun or a better countermeasure, like, you know, a lack of bridges or more trenches, to prevent said tank from being able to go very fast. That's what the British realized, and why they didn't just go for another tortoise variant or another assault tank variant. No, they canceled that line, and they went for turreted vehicles with decent armor, but mostly focused on having a good gun, good maneuverability. They mostly focused on having fast reload speed, good gun, and they developed the first true main battle tanks. Well, they started off the main battle tank line and trend. But God forbid you're a slow tank if you encounter an E25 or Annihilator. And just God help you if you're a slow tank, or a slow turret traverse tank, or a tank that's easily penetrated, or a tank with no gun depression, like KV2, Smasher, or tank and stuff. Which I repeat, any of those tanks, if an E25 face hugs you, or gets behind you, and they're right up against your butt, or your side, and they're shooting at you, you gotta hope your team helps you, and that E25 can't pen you, or you're almost guaranteed to die. E25, hard tank to play from what I've heard. It's hard, because there's a lot of tanks that hit very hard, and there's a lot more tanks that have enough gun depression to bully E25, or fast enough to bully the E25. So there's only a few tanks, but they're very popular tanks that you can truly bully easily in the E25. Annihilator, though. That thing not only has good armor, amazing gun depression, and hits like a truck every 13 or so seconds, that is the fastest reload for any tank in the game to ever exist that can hit for 500 or more damage with its AP shells. There's no tank in the game that has a 13-second reload, and every 13 seconds it fires out a shell or shells that are worth 600 damage in total. No. Even the autoloaders, they have at least a second or two minimum between their shells, which allowed them to do like something like 1500 or so damage with one magazine. But they have a several second reload in between their shells, or they don't do very much damage with their shells. Annihilator 3-shell burst gun. It's just pain. It is just painful to encounter. And I'm going to show you. I'm going to hop into a battle with my KV2 menacing and mad games. And this is the issue. I'm going to show you the issue with Annihilator. It's fine that it has inverse. It just makes it hard to deal with. Okay. This isn't. But I'm just going to keep ranting. I'll probably die faster because I'm still relearning the controls and how to play on a small device like the phone. But yeah, Annihilator, it is nearly impossible to kill or bully. And every other tank in the game, every other heavy tank, well, pretty much every other heavy tank in the game can be Circle of Death by a medium tank or a light tank, or even a faster heavy or a tank destroyer. Not the Annihilator. The Annihilator has good enough armor that it's going to bounce. If you had a slow turret traverse like Smasher, or even a decent one like the Tiger P, it would be fine, because even then you can still Circle of Death it in a Dracula, or your T-49, or LTTB. But no, it has the super speed boost. I didn't put anything else on my face. On me. But, yeah, Annihilator, it's got great gun depression, a great turret, amazing DPM, and mobility, and turret traverse and hull traverse. So it can't be Circle of Death by even a Dracula. If it had no armor, so other heavies bullied it, sure, it'd be fine if it could not be Circle of Death due to its turret traverse, because, well, then heavy tanks or tank destroyers would be a great counter for it. But that's not the case. It has armor, it has everything. It's basically, it's kind of like what an emo 1 would be like. at tier 7, but so much better. Because there is almost no counter for it other than another Annihilator.
We didn't even scratch them.
That's just RNG, honestly. That is just RNG. But yeah, anyone clamoring for a nerf against the KV2 that it's too good. Fuck you. Play the tank for more than a few battles. See how bad it is when RNG hates you, and you'll understand it. You'll understand. It's a fun tank. Unless RNG hits you. Because if you don't have good RNG, you're screwed in KV2. Don't bother playing the tank. Because it is just too bad if you don't have good RNG. And my teammate, there is no way I'm going to lose. 2 Eagle 7s focusing on me at the same time. And a Rant. Oh, I didn't mean to click on that. So, I think I have a replay here demonstrating the stupidity of the Annihilator. You know what? Oh! For whatever reason it deleted my replays. Or maybe I was on the but point is, the Annihilator and Smasher need a nerf. We've literally never had tanks this big of an issue that's been in the game for this long without receiving a nerf. In fact, Annihilator received off. There was a brief period of time when it first released where it was almost always missing and almost always getting low roll where it would only hit for like 90 or 100 per shell. Meaning it could only do like 300 or 400 damage maximum. It needed a buff then, because people paid like $5 to get a special battle pass during the Halloween event, which I heard had a fairly crappy mode called the Burning, like Mad Games and Uprising combined. Seems like a great idea, but apparently it wasn't, because it didn't work very well. And Annihilator needs help. Because if tanks like OTT and Dracula find it nearly impossible to circle death you as a heavy tank, and it is very difficult to counter an Annihilator, even with 2 or 3 heavy tanks rolling against at the same time, you're gonna have an issue. You have an issue that needs to be fixed. Now yeah, I deserve that ban. I'm just irritated that it happened. I'm pissed at myself for causing that ban. And I'm also pissed because one of my favorite games I've been playing for 3 years. Roughly 3 years of playing this game. I've never had an issue like this before. Before Annihilator, this game was so much better. Tier 6 and 7 and 8, yes, you had Smasher and E25. And sure, the email line was coming up soon, which would have really messed up the balancing and thrown the balancing of those of higher tier all out of whack. Because you had this new line of autoloader, hold down, amazing heavy tanks. I'm glad that it's texture tanks like the emo line that are OP now. I'm glad that those are meta. Because for once, it's not just Tiger 2. For once in tournaments, it's not just OP premium span with a few decent QH thrown in there, like the Tiger 2 or the Borson. And alongside a bunch of 252Us or Action X's. Now, sure, you're going to encounter that, but there's also a lot of emo votes. And it's great that the tech trees finally have a tank like this again after Tier 8 tournaments being dominated by premium tanks for so long. It's great. It's wonderful. And I myself am grinding the emo line on my main account. Let me just show you this. Let me just show you. Go down to tiers. Yeah, the STRV 74. I hate this tank. I just cannot play it for the life of me. I only played it for 11 battles, and then I sold the tank because I was doing so poorly in it, and then I just used like 1,000 gold or so to get free XP to convert elite XP into free XP, and then skip this tank and go to the Leo. And I hope the Leo is genuinely a better tank than the STRV 74 and easier to play. Otherwise, I'm going to have a lot of pain grinding it without mag games. But hey, thank you for only making it 10 man. Because honestly, I deserve that. I deserve that. I brought it upon myself. I admit I was being a shitty person right then, and I brought it upon myself. The issue is that there's tanks like Annihilator and Smash, which, honestly, if there were only a few hundred people out there with those, total, out of the, I'm gonna guess, a couple million people that play this game across the entire world, then, yeah, if there are only a few hundred or 1,000 or so out of every server in the game total, then yeah, they wouldn't be much of an issue, because there are tens of thousands of battles played every day, and only a few accounts. 1,000 people can only do so many battles in 24 every day, out of the tens of thousands and hundreds of other thousands of players on each server playing battles at tier 6, 7, and 8. So, if there were only a few people with access to Annihilator and Smasher, it wouldn't be as much of a problem. But when you flood tier 7 with an OP premium tank like Annihilator, you're going to have issues. Especially with the average skill of the player. And I'm on the North American server, which, just imagine being on Asia server right now. You've got all these thousands of Annihilator Spammers. You're trying to grind through, say, the AT7 or the MX AC46. You're trying to grind through it, trying to grind through a bad tier 7, and you're constantly getting Annihilators in your matches, or Smashers. Smasher is simple to counter. Just have semi-decent RNG, be skilled, and not be in a shitty, slow tank with bad armor, and you'll be fine. You should be able to deal with a Smasher fairly decently. He's gonna hit you hard, but you can deal with Smasher due to its slow turret traverse. Annihilator, good armor, hits like a truck, and has great turret traverse and speed. So you try and run away from it in a semi slow medium tank or a slow light tank, it can chase you, and it can still hit you, because with that super speed boost, it can go as fast as most mediums and some slow light tanks. Or it can go just fast enough to still kill them, or almost kill them, or get them to not be, or force them to have to run to the rest of their team, or run for the rest of the match. Unless they want to die to an Annihilator. if Annihilator had slightly worse armor, a little longer of a reload, and a slower turret traverse, it would be fine. It would be fine for the most part. Because then it could be Circle of Death. It wouldn't be impenetrable to tier 6s. Well, to most tier 6s. And slow tanks, like the AT series, wouldn't have a ton of, or the Churchill series wouldn't have as much as a problem with it, because they could flank it, they could penetrate, they could damage it, they could deal with it like how you're supposed to. It could be countered much easier, other than needing another OP premium tank, like the E20, like the Smasher, or another Annihilator. You wouldn't need OP tanks, or OP tanks at tier 8, to be able to counter an Annihilator. You could counter it in your average tier 6, like the Aerial 44, or the Hellcat. At least you could try. Anyways, thanks for coming to my rant, and please balance the Annihilator better.